Very good afternoon, everyone. So today I will be presenting my journal titled "Altered Oral and Gut Microbiota and its Association with SARS-CoV-2 Viral Load in COVID Patients During Hospitalization." So this was done in China and it was published in the year 2021 July in the journal named "NTJ Biofilms and Microbiomes," which has an impact factor of 8.2. The terminologies which we will need to get into the discussion is firstly dysbiosis, which is an imbalance in or maladaptation in the microbial community, and 16S RNA sequencing, which is a standard method to identify and compare the bacterial communities by sequencing a conserved genomic region. So next is alpha diversity, where the diversity of species within a single sample is seen, that is the richness and evenness. Beta diversity is where the difference in the microbial communities between samples is seen, that is between the patients and the controls. So PermaNOVA is a statistical test which is used to compare groups of samples, which is based on a distance matrix. And the viral load, it is the quantity of virus in a given volume. Here it is measured using RT-PCR of the E and N genes. So the novelty of the study is that this is the very first study to simultaneously and longitudinally profile both the oral and gut microbiota in COVID patients. So they link these changes to the viral load and the disease severity. So they have used a paired sampling method. So the collection of samples from the same patients during the virus positive phase and the virus negative phase were taken. So this study also had an oral gut axis focus. So identification of the specific bacteria that were elevated in both the sites in patients. So it suggests a potential systemic dysbiosis and a crosstalk. So it also has this covariant control where rigorous statistical validation were used to adjust the confounding factors like antibiotic usage, age and sex, so which has strengthened the findings of this study. So this study also has some functional implications which were used to predict the functional metabolic pathways like TSI cycle, which goes beyond the mere taxonomic description. So the aim of the study was to characterize the alterations in the oral as well as the gut microbiota in COVID patients during hospitalization, even after the viral clearance. The key objectives were to compare the diversity and composition both in the oral and the gut microbiota in patients and healthy controls, to assess the impact of the disease severity and antibiotic usage, to identify the specific bacterial taxa which is associated with the COVID infection, and to investigate the correlation between the abundance of this taxa and the COVID viral load, and also to predict the functional consequences of the microbial. So this study is a prospective longitudinal observation cohort study. So it had 53 COVID-19 patient groups and 76 individuals in the control group. So the patients were categorized based on the disease severity and the antibiotic exposure which they had. So the patients who were tested positive were taken into the study initially, and then the sample collection and processing, that is a longitudinal design part. So the sample types were source swabs for oral microbiome and fecal specimens for identifying the gut microbiome. So the timeline, it had two timelines, that is a positive and a negative. So PVRT is a positive viral RNA test period, where it is a period from the positive nucleic acid test until the first day of constitutive negative test. And the negative viral RNA test period is from the interval from the first day of the negative test until the discharge. So multiple samples were collected from each individual throughout the hospitalization period. It allowed for intra-individual comparison. So the sample size was, it had 140 of total throat swabs and 81 of fecal samples. So controls, in the control group it had 44 throat swabs and 32 fecal samples. So it was a single time point. It was taken from a single time point. So pre-processing of the samples were done. They were inactivated at 56 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes for biosafety concerns. So following which the laboratory techniques were done. So firstly, the DNA extraction and library preparation was done, followed which the 16S RNA gene sequencing was done. After which quantification of the viral done using RT-PCR was done. So absolute quantification was done so that the threshold values were obtained, and they were made into absolute viral copy numbers, so which is more of a quantitative than the normal values. And then the bioinformatics analysis pipeline, it had the sequence processing which were done using various databases, and the diversity and the differential abundance were further calculated, and they are subjected to statistical analysis, after which functional prediction and integration of these with the viral load was determined, so that they they correlate it and analyze it using this compositional data which is obtained. So p-value, which is p-value of less than 0.05 was said to be statistically significant. So for clinical data, they had categorical variables. So that is, and they used the categorical variables were presented as counts in percentages, and the continuous variables were which had median were presented with interquartile range IQR. The microbial data. So the group distances were calculated using Kruskal values and ANOVA tests. The results were that this study, they stated that there is a significant reduction in the alpha diversity both in the oral and the gut microbiome in patients when compared to the controls. So the reduction was even more pronounced in severe cases, and it also persisted after the viral clearance. The composition that is the beta diversity. It says that there is significant separation between the patient and control microbiomes in both oral and gut sites. So the antibiotic itself also caused a significant shift in the microbial taxa, and talking about the differential taxa in the oral and gut environment, depletion of the commensals were seen in both the sites, and enrichment of opportunistic pathogens like Veillonella, Granulocytia and Rotia were seen in oral, and even in the gut it was the same. The key findings were that the Granulocytia and the Mucilaginosa were consistently elevated in both the sides of the patients. It also had a viral load correlation where there was a positive correlation between the viral load and the Phyllomonas in the oral and P. copri in the gut. So negative correlation was also observed with salivary gut complexes. So this study also predicted a suppression of the key energy metabolism pathways, especially the TCA cycle in the oral microbiome. Moving on to the discussion, so this dysbiosis pattern which is observed here is correlated with, is aligning with the prior studies which have already been done. So they also hypothesized that the enrichment of the periodontitis associated bacteria in the oral cavity, it could also predispose to secondary co-infections, especially in patients who are in ventilator support. As the presence of oral taxa in the gut, it is suggested to be a marker of a particular disease which is potentially altered through the oral fecal transmission. And this persistent dysbiosis after the viral clearance, it is proposed to be a potential factor for this long COVID or even re-positive PCR test which affects the immune reconstruction. The strength of the study is that it has a longitudinal design. So samples before and after the viral clearance, it gives us the microbiome dynamics, and it also has a dual microbiome profiling where direct comparison of the oral and gut were done simultaneously in the same cohort. So it's said to have a major strength, and they use rigorous bioinformatic methods, and clinical correlation is done. So this links the microbiome data to the viral load plus the disease severity. So it has added to the clinical relevance. So they also they have well matched the cohorts, so it strengthens the validity of the case control comparison. The limitation of the study is that the causality versus the association. So since this is an observational study, it cannot establish that this dysbiosis it is a cause or a consequence of COVID-19. So from the metagenomic prediction, the functional analysis were all inferential, which because it did not have direct metagenomic or metatranscriptomic measurements. The sample size it only used moderate size cohorts. So especially for severe cases, so it limited the power of the study of some sub-analysis which I used. So antibiotic confounding was also said to be a limitation. So they have adjusted the statistics, but still they used the higher amount of antibiotics. So it still remains as a confounding factor. Also the geographic specificity is that it's only conducted in China, but that also happens to be a limitation. The future direction of the study is that they can use mouse models to test if this transplanting this COVID-19 associated microbiome can alter the disease severity. Also multi-omics integration can be done, and a longitudinal follow-up can also be integrated in further studies which are done, so that it can track patients for months together, so that to see whether if this microbiome recovery correlates with the resolution of the long-term COVID symptoms which have been identified already. So interventional trials can be made, and viral variant analysis can be done. So there can be there are a lot of variants after the actual variant like Delta and Omicron. So they are also associated with certain distinct microbiome alterations. They can also be studied. So to conclude, so this study gives us this robust and compelling evidence that this COVID infection is associated with a significant dysbiosis both in the oral as well as gut environment. So the specific microbial signatures and their correlation with the microbial load and the disease severity, it can offer us potential biomarkers for disease severity. It can also open new avenues for treatment modalities and therapeutic strategies, which is aimed to control and improve the COVID-19 outcomes. So this study it followed the SCOPE guidelines. The title and abstract introduction, the study design, participants, intervention, the control group were all well documented. The sample collection, including the lab analysis, bioinformatics, the outcomes, timeline, the statistical inputs, were all well documented. And the results, data accessibility, they have given the raw data is available online. And the discussion is strong. The conclusions are accurate and they support the data. The strength is that though it is a longitudinal paired design study, it does not it was more of inferential, so that was a bit partial. The limitations and future direction were implied and were well documented. Thank you.